Hello everyone and welcome to Football Newsroom for the match review between Barcelona and Atletico Madrid. Honestly guys, what a game of football it was. This might not be a 4-5 goal thriller, there was just a solitary goal in this match, but it was a game worth watching. Now, we have a lot to discuss, so without further ado, let's move on to the lineups. Barca, as we had predicted, started in their usual 4-3-3 formation, and all of our 11 predicted players in the match preview made it to the starting lineup. With Atletico, they also started in their predicted 4-4-2 shape, but with a slight change in position of the players. Saul played at left wing instead of Lodi, and Correa played down the right flank. Herrera and Thomas Partey started at central midfield with Joao Felix and Alvaro Morata up front. All starting at left back was a very calculated move for Simeone. Generally, Messi comes central, and this leaves a lot of space which Sergio Roberto can exploit all alone. So he went for an attacking change, with Koke playing alongside him down the left flank. Simeone thought that he could stop the attacks of Barcelona right away, and it worked in the initial stages of the game very well. As we had discussed, Atletico were not really in a very good position in the league, and getting just a single point from this game won't really help them. So, they went out at Barca after 10 minutes of the game. They pressed high up the pitch when required, and this troubled Barca a lot. With Busquets missing, Rakitic started the game in defensive midfield, and to be honest guys, he was not very comfortable in that area. Time and again we found Barca losing possession in dangerous areas of the pitch, and they were very lucky not to concede a goal and keep a clean sheet. Thanks to Ter Stegen, of course. What a game he had. Simeone had worked everything out very efficiently. With possession, Atletico would often look to maintain their width and create wide overloads when required. Both the fullbacks moved high up the pitch. When the ball was on one side, the fullback on the other side would move up and stay wide in order to keep the width, and the respective player playing as a wide midfielder would tuck in the central areas. Both the strikers would move aside when required, and Joao Felix would move a little deeper and try to exploit the spaces in between the lines. Now, this system seemed to work perfectly for the first 30 minutes. Atletico were clearly the better side, and they were very unlucky to be denied with the woodwork. Playing against a 4-4-2 defensive system of Barcelona, Simeone looked to create a regional overload when required and then often switch play. They played a lot of crosses and were very threatening down both flanks. Barca simply couldn't find a proper answer to this, and finally as the game went on, to their utter relief, they finally got more possession of the ball. They started enjoying more possession, and this changed the game gradually. In this Atletico Madrid system, the central midfielders Thomas Partey and Hector Herrera stayed a little deeper to cover the space left behind by the fullbacks who moved up. They often switched to a 2-3-2-3 system while attacking. Even though it is a very attacking system, this also meant that Thomas is very close to the defensive line so that he can prevent the counter-attacks. In the final third, Correa moved up narrow and pulled Firpo inside. This allowed Trippier to exploit the wide flanks. Atletico in total had 30 crosses in this game compared to Barca's 9. They clearly looked to threaten down the flanks, and as I said, maybe a little more luck and a better performance in the final third could win them the game. Barca slowly came back into the game with increased possession. This began with Messi staying wide. In the initial stages, he couldn't find much space down the central areas, and he was often losing possession in crucial areas. So he moved wide and stayed there. This meant that Saul had to track back now and slowed down the momentum of Atletico's game. Clearly, this shows you how even a change in the attacking system can help you in the back. As Messi stayed wide, Saul often came out to press him, and this left a lot of space between the fullback and the centre back. Sergio Roberto constantly moved up and exploited this space. In the first half, this was very much the attacking style for Barcelona. Moreover, sometimes we could also find Suarez moving a little deeper. He acted as a target man, and this meant Griezmann could move up and use the pace to exploit the space. But it didn't really matter guys. Atletico did a very good job. From covering the wide areas to covering Suarez and Griezmann, they did a pretty good job. Now, as Barca got more control of the game, the midfielders saw a little more of the ball. While building up, Barca switched to a 3-4-3 system. Rakitic moved deeper, and this allowed him to get a little more time with the ball, and he with the pace of someone like Joao Felix. This also allowed a better distribution and better cover in the back. This also meant that the other two midfielders could now move a little higher. As this happened, Messi started moving a little closer to Suarez, and Roberto and De Jong did their job on the right-hand side of the pitch. This was generally how the game was, and Atletico depended more and more on the counter-attacks, with Morata moving wider to exploit the spaces left behind by the fullbacks who moved up. Finally, after 85 minutes of play, Messi and Suarez again come to save Barca's day. A brilliant run by Messi, and after a brilliant exchange of passes, he scored a wonderful goal from outside the box. For Atletico, Hector Herrera and Thomas Partey had a pretty good game. They were clearly the best players for Atletico Madrid. For Barcelona, I think Messi, Arthur and Ter Stegen had a brilliant game. I don't know why Arthur was subbed off. He rarely plays 90 minutes and I don't seem to find a reason for it. This was a very hard-earned victory for Barcelona. I believe Ter Stegen was clearly the man of the match, pulling in brilliant saves and saving them from the defensive woes. But still, I believe it is an improvement from the defense as well. Due to Ter Stegen's brilliance and proper support from the defense, they finally managed to keep a clean sheet after a very long time. And I hope they will keep up this sort of performance. With the Clasico around the corner, this has to go on. That's about it, guys. Please leave your thoughts in the comments down below. What do you think about the game? How do you think it will affect Barca and Atletico? Please stay tuned to the channel. We'll be covering a lot of matches and a lot of videos. And don't forget to click the like button and subscribe to the channel.